Alright, so to start off this look, I'm going to be using this Venus eyeshadow palette by Limecrime. And I'm going to take the shade Venus and lightly start buffing this color into the crease area of my eye using this Sephora number 27 Pro blending brush. And I'm just going to be going back and forth using windshield wiper motions and really thoroughly blending the color in. Next, I'm going in with the color Rebirth and applying that right on top of where I put the color Venus, and I'm just going to use that to brighten up the crease and make it look a bit more colorful. Now I'm going in with the Venus 2 eyeshadow palette, also by Limecrime. I'm taking this green shade called Pigeon and packing that onto the inner and outer thirds of my eye while leaving the centers completely blank. And the reason why I'm doing this is because whenever you're creating a smoky halo eye, you always want to create what we call a sandwich effect with your eyeshadows by layering the lightest of shades in between the darkest of shades to give your eye a very three-dimensional look. And this is going to prevent your shadows from mixing together and becoming muddy because we're leaving a designated spot for each color instead of layering them on top of each other, which is what can make your eyeshadows turn messy whenever you're doing a smoky eye. Now I'm just blending out all those shadows using a Morphe B81 brush. And now I'm just going back in with my original blending brush and just blending away any harsh lines. Next, I'm going back in with the color Pigeon and intensifying the color in the areas that got blended away before going in with the color Flowershop by Colourpop and just tapping that onto the centers of my lids using my fingers, because I tend to find that whenever I'm working with any super shimmery or metallic shades, using my fingers is typically the best way to get the best color payoff. And now once again, I'm just going back in and blending everything out. Next, I'm going in with the color Mud from the Venus 2 palette, and I'm going to be using a Sigma E25 blending brush, and I'm just going to be lightly just sweeping that in between the crease colors and the lid colors, just to kind of act as a transition and make everything look much more defined. And now I'm going to be going in with the shade Telepathy by Colourpop, which is a really unique greenish gold shade, and I'm just going to be patting that on lightly onto the centers of the lid just to make everything look even more three-dimensional. And now I'm going to be going in with the shade Luckfully by Colourpop and applying that with a Sigma E56 shader brush, and I'm just going to be patting that onto the inner and outer thirds of the eye, basically in all the areas where we applied Pigeon, just to make everything in those areas look darker. And then I felt like there was a bit too much blue going on, so I went in with the shade Pigeon again, and I'm just lightly dusting it over all the areas where I applied that blue, just to bring some green back into the look. Next, I'm just taking a clean makeup wipe and just wiping off any excess eyeshadow that fell onto my face. Next, I'm just going to be lining my eyes using the Wet n Wild Mega Liner liquid eyeliner in the shade A Case of Blue. And I'm just going to be creating a pretty intense wing. And I'm just starting from the centers of my lid and just taking my time and working that all the way to the end of my lid. And then as I get to the end, I'm just flicking it upwards and creating a wing shape. Next, I'm going to be moving on to my face, and I'm going to start out by priming my skin with the NYX Studio Perfect Photo Loving Primer, and this is just going to help smooth out any pores, blemishes, and wrinkles. And then for foundation, I'm going to be using my L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte foundation in the shade 106 Sun Beige, and I'm just buffing that into the skin using my Morphe M439 brush. And now using a Real Techniques beauty sponge, I'm just going to push in all the product into my skin just to further blend out all my foundation. Next, I'm going to be doing a bit of color correcting using my Maybelline 14-Hour Lipstick in the shade Keep Me Coral. And I'm just using this shade to cancel out any of the dark blue/purple tones in my under eye circles before going in with concealer. And for concealer, I'm going to be using my Maybelline Master Conceal Concealer in the shade Light Medium. And I'm just going to be lightly pushing that into the skin using this e.l.f. concealer brush. And now I'm going back to my Real Techniques beauty sponge, and I'm just pushing all the products into my skin and just blending all that concealer out. And now I'm just going to further brighten up the under eye area using my NYX HD Concealer in the shade 4. And I'm just applying this using downward motions, and then I'm going to blend it all out using my damp beauty sponge. Now to prevent my concealer from moving around and creasing, I'm going to be dipping my sponge into this loose translucent powder in the shade Medium by CoverGirl. And I'm just going to be taking a bunch of the powder and really packing it on underneath the eyes to set all that concealer in place. Next, I'm going to be doing a little bit of cream contouring using my Anastasia Beverly Hills Cream Contour Kit in the shade Medium. I'm just going to take the color Cinnamon and I'm going to apply it onto my face, and then I'm going to buff it all out using a Morphe E7 brush. Now I'm going to go into the darkest shade from the Anastasia Contour Kit, and I'm just going to apply this to the areas that I want to kind of chisel out my features and bronze up my face, such as my cheekbones, the sides of my forehead, and my jawline. And then I'm going to buff it all out using my Morphe E7 brush. Now I'm going to contour my nose using my Maybelline Fit Me foundation stick in the darkest shade, which is number 355. And I'm just going to be applying this in downward vertical motions. And I'm applying both these lines pretty close to the center of my nose with not much distance in between both the lines, just to help slim down the appearance of my nose. And then I'm going to be going in with this dual-ended Ecotools brush and just blending away those lines. And now I'm just going to further soften those lines using my beauty sponge, and I'm just going to use the sponge to really push the product into my nose. Next, I'm going to be going back to my CoverGirl Loose Translucent Powder, and I'm just going to be using this Morphe M164 brush, which is the most perfect brush for contouring your nose. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of a reverse contour, and I'm just going to pack on that powder onto the sides of where I applied those contour lines on my nose, just to clean up the contour lines and further slim down the appearance of the nose. Now, using that same powder, I'm going to dip my damp beauty sponge directly into my loose powder, and I'm going to apply it to all the areas of my face that I want to bake. And for those of you who aren't familiar with baking in makeup, it's essentially a technique used to highlight and bring out certain features in the face, such as the under eye area, the center of the forehead, and down the bridge of the nose, as well as underneath the cheekbone and along the center of the chin. And you can use this technique to also help sharpen up your contour lines and clean up any mistakes you may have made while contouring your face. And the main reason why I do this technique is because it's really great for oily skin, which I have, because by packing on this powder in these areas and letting it sit on the face for as long as possible, basically you're using the temperature of your skin to help bake the powder into your skin, which is going to allow you to stay matte and oil-free all day long, and it's going to fill in your pores, minimizing the appearance of them, and it's going to help lock in your foundation so your face doesn't melt throughout the day. Now for lips, I'm going to be using this shade by Colourpop. It's their Ultra Matte Liquid Lipstick in the color Beeper. Now using this Real Techniques buffing brush, I'm just going to use circular motions and brush away all the excess powder that was left over from baking my face. And now I'm just going to spray my face with this e.l.f. setting spray. Then I'm just going back to my Real Techniques buffing brush, and I'm going to be dipping that into my NYC Translucent Smooth Skin Loose Face Powder, and I'm using this as a sort of final finishing powder to make sure I stay completely matte all day long, and so that throughout the day I don't get oily. Now, just to finish off the face, I'm going to do a little bit of powder contouring using my Wet n Wild Mega Glow contouring palette in the shade Caramel Toffee. And so I'm just going to start out by taking the lighter shade in the palette and just lightly dusting that underneath my eyes and along the centers of my forehead. And then I'm going to go in and bronze my face using the darker color, and I'm just applying that to my cheekbones and around my hairline and the sides of my forehead, as well as my jawline. And this is just going to help bring some warmth back into the face. And finally, I'm just going to be powder contouring my nose using that darker shade from the Wet n Wild contour palette. And I'm just running this along the sides of my nose, again in vertical motions, just to emphasize the contour that I did with the cream products. Then going back in with my Morphe M164 brush, I'm just going to be dipping that into the lighter banana colored powder, and I'm just going to be reverse contouring again and just cleaning up those darker contour lines to further slim down the nose. And then I'm going to go back in with my beauty sponge and just push in all those powders just to soften everything up. Then for blush, I'm going to be using this one by e.l.f. and it's in the shade Pink Passion. Then it's time for brows, and so to fill in my brows, I'm going to be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade in the shade Ebony. And I'm just using a small angled brush to work that into my brows and make them look bolder and fuller. And I like making my brows nice and bold whenever I'm doing a really intense eye look, just to kind of match the intensity of the eyeshadows. And now I'm just setting all those brow hairs in place using my L'Oreal Brow Stylist Plumper in the shade Medium to Dark. Now to finish off the eyes, I'm just lining my waterline with this Colourpop Cream Gel Liner in the shade Prance. And then I'm going to add in the same eyeshadow shades that we used in our upper eyelids onto the lower lash line. I'm just going to be using a Morphe 212 brush and some of Rebirth and Venus from the Venus palette. And I'm just going to be running that all along the lash line. And then I'm going to finish off the lash line by applying some of Pigeon just on the outer thirds of my eyes. And then I'm going to top off my lashes with a little bit of mascara. And for my bottom lashes, I'm going to be using the Maybelline The Falsies Push Up Drama Mascara. And for my upper lashes, I'm going to be going in with my L'Oreal Telescopic Mascara in the shade Blackest Black. And then I didn't end up filming this part on camera, but I ended up going in with some false lashes. And the ones that I ended up using were by Eyelure in the style Definition. And now for the second to last step, I'm just going to be touching up on my lips and going over it with a gloss. And the gloss that I'm using is by NYX. It's their Butter Gloss in the shade Tiramisu. And now for the very final step in this entire makeup look, I'm just going to be going over my eyeliner with this NYX crystal liner in the shade Crystal Jade. And it's just this kind of sparkly emerald green color, which you don't have to do this step if you don't want to, but I just wanted to be a little bit extra. And yeah, that concludes this Snapchat flower crown inspired makeup look. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and for those of you who actually took the time to watch this, huge thank you to you, and I will see you guys in my next video.